Welcome to XLCR 32, the online news source for the Excelsior Project from the New York Council of Deliberation.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to XLCR 32, Excelsior Programs, Leadership and Education sessions for the New York Council Deliberation. Tonight, we have several guests with us from the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library in Lexington, Massachusetts. We have Richard Elliott, the Executive Director, Hillary Anderson Stelling, who is the Director of Collections and Exhibitions, Stacy Frazier, who is the Assistant Curator, and Jeff Croteau, the Director of Library and Archives. And we are going to talk about the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library's 50th anniversary and all the activities they've got coming up. And with that, I will pass the speaking off to our director, illustrious brother, Richard Elliott. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening, and thank you, Rick. First of all, thank you for the invitation. The team's excited to be here and to be able to share some of the things that have gone on over the past 50 years. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to share a little bit about how we put together a new exhibition. We're going to talk about a little bit of opportunity for folks to support our Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library with some new programs that we have. At the end, Jeff Croteau is going to share with you some opportunities that we're bringing into the museum or working with other institutions as some of our 50th anniversary programming. So we're pretty excited to be able to share all of this. And so if you could go to the next slide, Rick. John Warner was a great supporter of our institution. John served as the Secretary of the Navy from 1972 to 1974. He was a U.S. Senator for about 30 years from, I think, let's see, up until 2009. And this is what he thought of your Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library. The Scottish Rite Masons of the Northern Masonic jurisdiction are to be commended for building a bicentennial landmark that will serve the citizens of the United States as an educational institution in the years to come. And we think that we have accomplished all that he put into that statement years ago. John was the administrator of the American Revolution Bicentennial Administration and recognized our program way back when it started in 1975. So our museum and library construction began in 1974, and the building was dedicated in 1974 with a cornerstone dedication, and in 1975, on Patriots Day in 1975, we officially opened the building with a dedication. Next slide, Rick. So I want to talk very briefly about membership opportunities. We have a number of membership opportunities that we offer for people to support us and be a part of the things that go on daily at the museum and library. The staff, we have a terrific staff, which I think is the envy of most institutions in this country that deal with Masonic history, fraternal related items, and as well as American history. So we're happy to be here today and share some of our programming. And as part of that programming, I'd just like to make everybody aware that we're always looking for people to support us through our membership program. We belong to the North American Reciprocal Museum Association, which enables you, if you join through our institution, to visit several hundred other institutions across the country, most likely some of them local to where you live. So we have a brand new website, and on the website, our membership opportunities are all spelled out there if you wish to support us in that fashion. We're also going to be coming out with a brand new quarterly newsletter that will be sharing information, sharing pieces of the collection, and telling you a little bit about the staff and who they are and what they do on a daily basis. So we're excited about all of the membership opportunities that we have. Next slide, Rick. And brand new to us is the 1975 Club. The Sovereign Grand Commander was the first member of our 1975 Club. We're doing this with the support of our Charities Department, who is working diligently with us to bring in new members to become supporters of the museum and library through the 1975 Club. So what this is it gives you an opportunity to commit to a monthly contribution of either $19.75 or a total one-time contribution for $237 a year. We hope that you have some interest in joining, and we'll renew that commitment at the end of the first year. And I'm going to share a little bit about what the 1975 Club is. So next slide, Rick. So as a member of the 1975 Club, you will receive an annual contributor level membership, which gives you the opportunity to experience the NARM membership. And you will also have the opportunity to engrave a name or your name or a couple of names on a brick, and they will be displayed very proudly out on our brand new patio. We had all of our brickwork redone over the last 2 years, so the building looks great. But we'll be able to place a brick out there in that new brickwork, personalized with you if you join the 1975 Club. I will also say that if you don't want to join the 1975 Club but want to have a brick, we're going to be selling them separately as well. So you'll have that opportunity to still be a part of our legacy going forward. So the bricks that were out there were the original bricks, and they lasted about 48, 49 years, and it was time to swap those over. So now we're proud to be able to give some support to some of our members and display their names and share our legacy with them in that fashion. And you also get a nicely designed 1975 Club commemorative pin. So there'll be a nice membership package that will be sent out to you as a member of the 1975 Club. Next slide, Rick. The other thing I wanted to mention very quickly was, as a part of our new website, and if you haven't been onto the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library website recently, please pop on there and check it out. The team did a great job over the past year and a half, 2 years. We really scrutinized everything that's on that website, and it provides opportunity for you to be able to go in and see pieces of the collection, share the digital assets through the archives, the library, and also provides opportunity for you to purchase at our shop any of the books that have been written over the course of time related to the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library work over the years. So what you see here is the cover of Kamel Osayef's latest book, entitled A Freemason's Journey Through Space and Time. And that can be purchased either on Kindle, or you can go on our website, srmml.org, and shop on the website, and we'll send that right out from the museum and library. We process those pretty quickly. So those are a few of the things that I wanted to share, but I just want to invite everybody to join us for a very special celebration on April 13th. On that day, we will be rededicating the facility. We have the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts and Most Worshipful Grand Master Hamilton will be there to rededicate our facility with his team of Grand Lodge officers on April 13th. So we will be doing that with a rededication stone, and then we will have a program for about an hour in the Maxwell Auditorium with a few guest speakers, and we're going to be doing a time capsule and asking people to participate in our time capsule. So those are a few of the things that will be going on April 13th. And I invite each and every one of you to join us if you can. It's going to be a pretty special day. Jeff is going to talk a little bit at the end of the presentation here, the last few minutes, about some of the other programs that are already on the books and planned, and you can find those on our website as well, and they're scheduled Some of them are scheduled already, and we're continuing to work on some other programs as well. So I would like to introduce Stacy Fraser, who is our curatorial assistant, and she just does a fantastic job, and we're happy that we were able to have Stacy come in from Lexington. It gives us a little bit of local connection. Well, not a little bit. It gives us a great local connection. So we're excited that she's joined the team. She's stepped right in and brought some great things to the program. So she's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the I think basically the two new exhibitions and a little bit of the work, some of the behind the scenes things, so you get a better understanding of what it is that happens at the museum and library every day. So Stacy, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Rich. And thanks everyone for having us. Can we do the next slide, Rick? Thank you. So one of the great things that we're excited about for our April 13th event is opening a new gallery exhibition about Lexington's role in the American Revolution, in the start of the Revolution, throughout the war and on into how it has been commemorated and how the story has sort of become part of our national story. And, you know, a lot of this I feel like connects directly to the reason that Sovereign Grand Commander Newbury and later Maxwell really were guided towards creating a museum of American history, Freemasonry, and fraternalism in Lexington because of that strong connection to the origins of our country, to the beginning of the war. So this will be our fourth show about this topic in our 50 years. So it's been a perennial favorite, and I think it's been great that we've been able to sort of revisit it, you know, every decade or so with new information, new research, new cast of characters, new stories. So we're looking forward to this next show. It's called Protest and Promise, The American Revolution in Lexington. And I always like to tell the people that I actually came up with the title when I was sitting in the Boston Tea Party 250th anniversary symposium at the Grand Lodge in Massachusetts last December. There were a couple of discussions of sort of these ideas of protest leading towards the events that happened April 19th, 1775. And I think it kind of encapsulates some of that, which we're happy to see. So as probably many of you know, on April 19th, Massachusetts colonists engaged in battle with British soldiers who were occupying Boston at the time. There's a lot of details, a big story to tell, but essentially after this day, this became kind of the kickoff, basically, the sort of spark that ignited what it became a war for independence for us. Next slide, please, Rick. And so we've sort of set this up, like I said, with a section that talks a little bit about what came before, what were the things that led to the taxation, some of the acts from Parliament and the Crown, some of the protests like the Boston Massacre. In Lexington, we had a spinning protest where young women in Lexington gathered to spin linen and cotton and wool, and to kind of prove that they could boycott English textiles and they could make their own if they needed to. There's a lot going on in that period. And then, of course, the events of April 18th and 19th, what happened that day. It was a long day, a lot going on. A little bit about what came after, you know, what we're looking at for the rest of the war. How did it go from the end of the day on April 19th to actual sort of declaration of war? And then we go into the commemoration, thinking a little bit about from 1789, George Washington's visit to, as he called it, the spot on which the first blood was spilt in our dispute with Great Britain, through major national anniversaries, including the bicentennial, when, of course, our museum was founded. And then we finish up with a little bit of reflection, a little bit of information. It's, you know, hard to write an exhibition about events that are not yet happened, but we sort of have a little bit about the plan for the 250th commemorations in Lexington, as well as an opportunity for visitors to provide their own reflections about some of the big ideas and some of the big events that happened around this time. Next slide, please, Rick. So this is a little bit, you know, this show is not up yet. We don't have pictures of a finished product. So I wanted to just show you a little bit of sort of some of the information and the deliberation that goes into some of these things. For us, we are working with designers, and Hillary and Maureen and consultation with Jeff and Rich and many others on staff, talked to them a little bit about our color choices, for example, for this show. Our inspiration was this map on the left here. It's a reprint, our hand-colored version of a map that we have in the library collection. And it shows the events of April 18th and 19th. And you can see it's very small in this, but there's little red soldiers and blue soldiers, and there's some really beautiful colors. There's some light blue in the shallow water there. And that kind of helped. You can see the color choices to the right there. That helped guide our color choices for this show. And we do some fun things like getting these samples that we can stick up on the wall in the gallery and kind of see how they interact with each other. And that's sort of part of the process of getting the colors right and getting sort of setting the tone in the gallery. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a obviously from above floor plan of one of our major galleries. It's the gallery just off the lobby when you visit the museum. The entrance is kind of over to the left here where the blue walls are. And we've kind of, as you can see, created a few ways to help visitors go through the exhibition to kind of find their way through in a flow that makes sense. And we get a ton of help from our facilities staff, from Ralph and Mark, who do the painting and the building. We're very, very lucky to have their services to help us physically put together the show. Next slide, please, Rick. So I have a couple of these elevations sort of from our 3D design plan. I picked this one because I thought some of you might find the Green Dragon Tavern sign interesting. It's a little bit later. We think it's 1875 to 1940 or so. So it's a later version of a sign that hung above the Green Dragon Tavern in Boston, which was where the Lodge of St. Andrew met at the time. That lodge, of course, had people like Joseph Warren and Paul Revere in it, and so was very involved in Sons of Liberty activities. I think my favorite connection to the events of 1773, for example, the Boston Tea Party, is that was a regular meeting night for the Lodge of St. Andrew. And the minutes for the lodge basically say that the meeting was postponed because so few brethren were present. Nothing more said, but you have to assume that they were somewhere else. So this is sort of our first section where we have a darker blue and we're looking at the events that led to what happened on April 19th. Next slide, Rick. And then we sort of switch to this red color when we're dealing with the battle on the green. Some of this material that you can see here relates to Paul Revere's ride, including that really great Grant Wood print on the right-hand side that shows Revere kind of riding through a New England town. And then the Doolittle print there in the middle by Amos Doolittle and Ralph Earl. There's a set of 4 plates that tell the story of the day. And this is plate 1 that shows the engagement on Lexington's Common. Next slide, please. And after we go through the war, we kind of transition from the end of the war into the memory and commemoration period. So we talk about Washington's visit and kind of go through, you can see just in this one screenshot, both Washington and Lafayette visited Lexington within 25 years or 35 years of each other as part of some of the celebrations of April 19th. Next slide. Thank you. So this is kind of as we're transitioning out of the bicentennial section. I wanted to point this out in particular because, of course, our museum's founding is so tied to the bicentennial. So without trying to put too much of the museum in the story of this exhibition, we were able to include some things like these, this map of Lexington that includes the museum and a photograph of the opening day. And if you go to the next slide, Rick, I've got bigger versions of those 2 images. There we go. So I love this map that we just found last year. You know, we have amazing collections at the museum, and we were able to pull a lot of material from our existing collections in order to create this show. But we also, keep an eye out for things that would be helpful to help illustrate things. And so last year we were able to purchase this bicentennial map of Lexington. So it came out, we assume, before April in that year. And if you can see at the bottom, right where the intersection of Merritt Road and Massachusetts Avenue is at the bottom right. That's our museum right there on the map, even though it had still technically not opened yet. The town made sure to include it on this list of historic sites and museums and cultural institutions in town. So it's part of a bigger story. It kind of joined the crowd of historic sites in Lexington 50 years ago, and we're very happy about that. The photo on the right is a great one from the archives showing the opening day and the flag raising. And we're actually really excited because 2 of the school kids who are standing in this photo are actually going to be attending our rededication event on April 13th. And that was a really great, I put it out in our Facebook group in Lexington, and we managed to track them down and invite them, and they were overjoyed to be able to attend. So we're looking forward to sort of how that story of our museum kind of coincides with the story of Lexington's commemorations of the war. Next slide, Rick. And one of the events we're going to do to talk about that a little bit is a collaborative event with Lexington Now History Museums, formerly Lexington Historical Society. And they are also, of course, opening a new show for April 19th, 2025, called Swept Up in Revolution. And we have our show. So their curator and I are going to do sort of a dual gallery talk at Buckman Tavern in the morning to see their show, and then a little bit later over at the museum to see our show. So we're looking forward to how we can contribute to Lexington's commemorations of the war, and how our 50th anniversary and the 250th anniversary have, coincided literally from the start. And we're really looking forward to celebrating that connection as we go this time around. So very excited about that. Thanks for giving me the time to speak. And Hillary Anderson-Stelling is going to talk next about our show that is currently up, about 50 years of collecting.
Thanks a lot, Stacy. Appreciate it. I've learned so much from Stacy working on the Protest and Promise exhibition. She's done a great job with it, and we're looking forward to seeing the show come to life in the next 38 days. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about an exhibition that we opened in November called Looking Back, Moving Forward, 50 Years of Collecting. As many of you may know, don't know, when the museum opened, it was sort of, was a little bit of an experiment in that they had no permanent collection, or they had a very small one. There was a small library collection. There was a very small archives collection. I'm sorry, a very small object collection. So when they opened the museum, it was, something new, and we really have, over the 50 years, we've developed a collection, and the collection changes shape, sort of decade by decade. I'm going to go through and talk about some moments in this short presentation that you could learn more about in the exhibition 50 Years of Collecting. It'll be up for about it'll be up for about 2 years, not 50 years. And we'll look forward to welcoming you to it if you're able to come on April 13th or anytime in the next couple of years. Rick, do you mind doing the next slide for me? Thank you very much. So as you know, the museum was the brainchild of Sovereign Grand Commander George A. Newberry. He was a Sovereign Grand Commander, a very enthusiastic patriot, and he also he was responding to the divisive politics and social turmoil of the 1960s. He dreamed of an institution that would bring people together and help to build a better and more united States of America. So motivated by his belief that Americans should celebrate the country's tradition, ideals, and great leaders, Newberry suggested that the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry and the Northern Masonic jurisdiction should build an American History Museum and library in Lexington. And the enthusiastic support of Scottish Rite Masons brought Newberry's vision to life. In 1969, the Supreme Council brought the land that would be the eventual home of the museum and library. Newberry announced plans to establish a museum and library for American history at the annual meeting in 1972. From 1972 to 1974, working with architectural firms Shepley, Bullfrench, and Richardson and Abbott, and supervised by Stanley F. Maxwell, Newbury's executive secretary and later sovereign grand commander of the Northern Masonic jurisdiction. Turner Construction erected the museum and library at a cost of about $6 million. The design that they put together specified several separate galleries on one level, and this was to allow for flexibility and frequent exhibition changes. The designers wanted it to be a sort of a journey of discovery, that you could go from gallery to gallery and that you could explore one or explore all of them, that it would be sort of a low pressure environment. Designers also included enormous storage space in the basement of the building to accommodate the collection that the founders envisioned would be developed over time. And so after all this work in 1975, the museum opened to the public, a gift to the nation from the Scottish Rite Freemasons of the Northern Masonic jurisdiction in honor of the American Bicentennial, as Stacy mentioned. And in its first year, the museum welcomed 70,000 visitors. Can I have the next slide, Rick? Next slide. So what did they see? The museum opened on April 20th and welcomed the public with exhibitions of Civil War drawings, American portraits, and decorative arts and quilts. And all of these objects, by and large, were borrowed from other institutions. They had a sprinkling of recent acquisitions, and this painting by Rembrandt Peale of George Washington was included in that group. At the time, the brand new museum, really only has a small collection of objects, and these were primarily souvenirs, historic Masonic artifacts, and initial purchases. But once the word about the museum being built, being founded and built got out, the museum attracted gifts. This is one of the first ones given to the museum in 1975. This portrait of George Washington was painted in 1847 by Rembrandt Peale, and it was, as I mentioned, featured in the exhibition that first year. Rick, can you give me the next slide? Thank you very much. All right, so these objects were also early gifts to the museum. I'm speaking specifically of the tall case clock and the painting of George Washington and Alexander Hamilton. Collector Willis Michael bought his first tall case clock, possibly this one in the picture, in the 1930s. In the 1970s, Willis Michael's wife, whose name was Ruth, began sharing clocks from her and her late husband's extensive collection as loans and gifts to the museum in honor of Willis Michael's lifelong involvement with Freemasonry in Pennsylvania. The collection of Willis and Ruth Michael's clocks that the museum now has is numbers over 140 clocks and watches, and it really forms the core of the museum's clock and watch collection. So we're very lucky that opening the museum at that time attracted the attention of Ruth Michael, so she made this gift. Other collectors, Georgia and Richard Manny, gave us this painting of the first meeting between Hamilton and Washington. They were unconnected with Freemasonry, as far as we can tell, and they gave just over 20 Washington-related artworks and textiles, and also a sculpture to the museum in the late 1970s. They were active collectors and philanthropists, and they appeared to have been motivated to make a fairly substantial gift to the museum because it was a new institution and it was buzzy at the time. And they gave us this group of over 20 paintings and sculptures, and we use them all the time. They gave us some wonderful objects. But their gift does sort of speak to the idea that in the 1970s, sort of a new history museum, they weren't turning up everywhere. So people really got excited about the opportunity. Rick, do you mind switching slides again? Thank you very much. So the exhibition is organized decade by decade, and we have basically one object to represent every decade of collecting that the museum has done. And this clock here that was created by an artist called George McFadden is one example of works that we received in the museum's second decade. Fueled by imagination his whole life, George McFadden designed theater sets, costumes, and mechanical displays for department stores and circuses. And in retirement, he developed a passion for cuckoo clocks, and he made a themed whimsical clock for his own pleasure every year. This clock was created in 1979, and it is McFadden's version. It tells the story of Jonah and the whale in McFadden's sort of creative view of it. And McFadden's clocks really speak to his creativity, his sense of humor, and his generosity. He left the museum 19 of these special clocks that he made for himself in his will when he passed away in 1991. Rick, can I have the next slide? Thanks so much. As you may know, the museum has a wonderful collection of Masonic and fraternal quilts, and this has been quilts have been an interest of the museum, sort of the curators at the museum from the beginning. One of the first objects that the museum bought in the 1970s was a pair of quilts that included Masonic symbols on them. And as you know, while only men could be members of mainstream Masonic lodges, their wives, daughters, and other female relatives were not excluded from Freemasonry. Through joining women's auxiliary groups, sewing regalia, participating in fundraisers, women learned about Masonic symbols, and many demonstrated this knowledge with their needles, specifically sewing quilts and aprons. And over the years, the museum has acquired quilts dating from the early 1800s up through the 1990s. These are all tangible evidence of the ways that women have understood and depicted Masonic symbols. And at the museum, they've been prized as both handcrafted works of art and also as a vibrant form of Masonic material culture. Rick, can you give me the next slide? Thank you. And as you know, if you've listening to us all talk about the museum, we collect American history, Masonic history, and also objects related to fraternalism. And so it's quite a broad remit. And here is an example of a wonderful fraternal object in our archives collection. This is a certificate from the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen. It dates from the late 1890s, mid to late 1890s. This is a group that was founded in 1873. They joined together to form a mutual assistance organization that paid members or their families benefits if they should have an accident or death, or if they should die. The founders, like many groups that were active in the 1800s, they looked to Freemasonry and other fraternal organizations as a model for how to organize their group. And this group developed a ritual for their ceremonies, and members agreed to keep aspects of the organization secret from non-members. The museum actively collects objects, archival material, and books related to fraternal groups, such as Oddfellows, Knights of Pythias, and many, many others, because the connections between these groups and Freemasonry, and also because these groups have long been a part of American lives. Rick, can I have the next slide? Thank you very much. As you know, the Museum of Our National Heritage, which was the museum's name when it opened, was founded with really high ideals and very high expectations. And over the last half century, to help achieve the lofty goals the museum was founded with, the museum has collected, preserved, and cared for material related to American history, Freemasonry, and fraternalism. And our collection has grown from just a few hundred objects to over 27,000. Today, the library and archives collections include 65,000 volumes and over 2,100 linear feet of archival material. Together, these items can help us better understand the past and the lives of who have come before us, what they were proud of, what they accomplished, and how they saw themselves in the world. Newberry brought his vision of an American history museum, what he called this patriotic endeavor, into reality with the help and support of tens of thousands of Scottish Rite Masons throughout the Northern Masonic jurisdiction. Ongoing generous support from the Scottish Rite Masons, as long with that of museum members, special donors, and the public, has sustained the museum and its collection for the first 50 years. Building on this strong foundation, we look forward to the decades ahead. And I really appreciate the chance to talk about this exhibition and hopefully encourage you to come see it if you are in the New England area. I also wanted to add that the portrait highlighted here is of Thomas Lowndes, who was a mover and shaker in New York City Freemasonry in the 18-teens. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but it's an example of an object that we've recently added to the collection. We are always looking, and we love to find treasures like this wonderful portrait of someone whose name you can see in all the Royal Arch proceedings from about 1805 to 1815. So thank you again for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. My colleague, Jeff Croto, who's the director of the Library and Archives, is going to speak next about some of the programs we're offering in our celebratory year.
Great. Thanks very much, Hillary. And thanks for having us all here this evening to talk to everyone. So when we started talking about how to celebrate our 50th anniversary, when the staff started talking, what should we do to celebrate our anniversary? One thing we talked about was whether this would be a one-time event, a year-long event. And so in the end, we decided, let's make this a year-long celebration. So the April 13th event that Rich was talking about at the beginning, this is a real kickoff to a whole year of celebrating the museum and library's 50th anniversary. And part of why we want to do that is we want to give people the opportunity to participate and come to the museum if they can. And also it gives us the opportunity to offer more programs and other opportunities over a year rather than just a one-day celebration. So and with that in mind, we also wanted to make new friends and reconnect with old friends. So, people that haven't been to the museum in 15, 20 years, we want them to come back and say hi and see where the museum is now. And for people who have never come, we want them to come for the first time and see what we're all about. So, and having a year-long celebration hopefully gives people an opportunity to plan and to come if they can. And so I'm going to talk just about 3 programs that we have coming up later in our anniversary year. We're going to have 2. So going back to the idea of making friends and reconnecting with old friends, we also wanted to reconnect with institutional friends that the museum had. So we thought, wouldn't it be great to have some partnership programs where we can put together a program, a lecture in partnership with another organization. And so Stephen Bullock, who you may know as the author of Revolutionary Brotherhood, Freemasonry and the Transformation of the American Social Order. He is also a professor of history at Worcester Polytech, not that far from us in Massachusetts. He will be giving a lecture on October 16th of this year. And this lecture is going to be a partner event with the Paul Revere House. So it'll be at the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library, but it'll be in partnership with Paul Revere House. So if you are nearby or you're planning to be in the Massachusetts area in October, this will be a wonderful talk. So that's the first one. Next. In November, the following month, so November of this year, Joel Bowie will be coming to give a lecture, and this is another partnership event. And this is a partnership with Lexington History Museums, formerly the Lexington Historical Society. This again will be a lecture at the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library in Lexington. Joel Bowie is a military historian, appraiser on PBS's Antiques Roadshow, and he's the co-author of this new book, Bullet Strikes from the First Day of the American Revolution. And it's a very interesting topic, and it is a deep dive into ballistics that can help tell the story of what happened on the first day of the American Revolution, which of course around Lexington is the story. You know, April 19th is what the whole story is about for us. And then we realize the American Revolution continues for many years afterwards. But if you're in the Lexington area, there's a real focus on the events of that day. And this is a real interesting new look at the topic. So it should be a great lecture. And then finally, if you want to go to the next slide, please. There will be a virtual online presentation, and this is going to be a partner event with New York Genealogical and Biographical Society. And the details, this will be in November also of this year. And there'll be more details on both our website and the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society later in the year when the availability to sign up when the opportunity to sign up becomes available. This is going to be a presentation, as you can see, called Unlocking the Mysteries, an introduction to using American fraternal records in genealogical research. I'm going to be doing this presentation along with Sarah Shepard, who is the museum's archivist. As you can imagine, we get lots and lots of genealogy questions in the library and archives. And a lot of times what people want to try to understand is, where are fraternal records located? What is in them? Can I have access to these? You know, oftentimes people start with, is there a giant database of Freemasons? And you have to explain that Freemasonry is extremely decentralized, and people are often very excited to learn simple things like, oh, the records of a lodge located in Illinois are probably with membership records with the Grand Lodge of Illinois, and I can contact the Grand Secretary and maybe find some answers that I'm looking for. So we'll be getting into a real deep dive in the lecture, but that'll be an opportunity that if you can't make it in person, you could still participate in our 50th anniversary celebrations, because this will be online and available to the public. So I encourage you to follow us on social media, check out the museum's website to sort of keep abreast of any programs that we have going on. But these were three big ones that we wanted to highlight tonight, just to give a sense of what's coming up during this anniversary year. And I will turn it back over to Rich Elliott.
Thank you, Jeff. I just wanted to back up a little bit and talk a little bit about what one of the things that Hillary mentioned, and that was that we're always looking for new pieces for our collection. Stacy mentioned the map that was recently purchased as one of the items that they were able to locate. And by the way, I want to apologize to Stacy for introducing her with an improper title. She's our assistant curator, which is very much different from a curatorial assistant. So apologies, Stacy, for that. But I just wanted to, if people support the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library, one of the things that it does is provide us opportunity to bring in new pieces in acquisitions, especially purchases. And the team is always looking for items on eBay, auction houses. So there are three ways that we bring items into the collection. The first is they can be gifted. The second is that they can be purchased, and the third is that items can be loaned to us. But we're always looking for support to give the team, the staff, a greater opportunity to think a little bit bigger about some of those things that might perhaps be a little out of reach one year, or we might be able to consider the next year. There are hundreds of items out there on a daily basis that get looked at and considered, but we have to work with the space that we have in the museum and library. Hillary mentioned that we had this huge space in the basement. Well, that huge space in the basement is pretty confined after 50 years and all the things that have come into the collection and the other things that are part of our Supreme Council and Museum and Library and Children's Dyslexia Center, which are all housed under one roof now. So a little bit more about the history that Hillary mentioned. So most of you are probably aware that in 2012, our Supreme Council decided that we would sell the building that they were located in up the hill. We sold that building to the town of Lexington. That's their community center. They are great neighbors. But we took, much to the dismay of the staff at that time, we took a couple of exhibition areas and converted those to office space to house our Supreme Council and our Children's Dyslexia Center programs. So all three of our programs have been under one roof since 2013 when that move was made. There have been a few other changes at the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library on the physical building over the years. In 1996, I believe it was, as part of the original construction was an open courtyard, which Commander Ralston at that time decided we needed a little bit more conference space. So we enclosed that outside courtyard and made what is now the FAR conference area. So the building we're very, very proud of. We have a team that has maintained that building over the years. It is an expensive building to maintain, but when people walk into the building and they take a look around, one of their first comments is, "I can't believe that this building is 50 years old." So we're very proud of how it's been maintained over the years, and proud to be a part of what it stands for today, and to be a continued part of that legacy and that history to start the next 50 years. So we're happy to answer any questions. If anybody has any questions, the team will certainly answer those for you. They're not only legends in their own minds, they're legends in my minds, and I'm proud every day to be able to work with this team. I continue to learn every single day from them, and that's what makes my job interesting and exciting. So, Rick, I want to thank you and the Excelsior program for inviting us here tonight. Certainly, we hope that any and all can come and visit us, especially during the anniversary year. And when you walk in, please come in and say hello and ask for us, and we'll try to give you some special treatment.
All right, very cool. Thanks, Rich. Great program, Stacy, Hillary, Jeff, and Rich. It's always a pleasure to find out what's going on. Of course, as a member of the board of directors, I've been kind of privy to some of the things you've got planned. It's very, very exciting. Again, April the 13th is coming up very, very quickly. So if anybody who is either watching with us tonight or watching this between now and then would like to go out there, it'd be a great day to come out and check out the museum and library. I will now open the floor for questions. If there's not an immediate one, I have a couple, and I'll start off. I'll start off before somebody else does. You mentioned the 1975 club earlier, and my question was, can you only join online, or if you happen to be out there on April the 13th, will you be able to join that day in person as well?
Nope, these are all the details that we've been talking about in recent weeks, and one of the things people will have an opportunity to do that day is simply become a member of the museum and library, or they can become a member of the 1975 club, and they'll also have an opportunity to purchase any of the books that we have that we're marketing online as well.
I will add, if you like Masonic books, there are some fantastic books that our Northern Masonic jurisdiction has put out in recent years, that Kamel has worked on, and a few other folks. If you haven't got them, it's a good time to get them. Least of which is the Franken manuscript book, which is outstanding. So, does anybody have any other questions?
Well, Rick, I'd like to just say thank you to the entire staff, Rich, Jeff, Hillary, Stacy. Great talk. It was really nice, and I'm looking forward to being with you on the 13th. It's going to be a great day, I know. One question though, with regard to access, one thing is coming, and if you want to do research, there's certainly lots of facilities there. But how are you doing with the online access to both the museum and library resources?
So I can speak to the library and archives. So one thing that we've never had is very useful online catalog that allows someone to search our archives collections. And so this May, we're actually going to be launching an archives catalog that will allow people to easily search what material we have in our archives. And that will also include some of the digitized material that we have from our archives collection as well. So there are, I can't remember the current number. I want to say 1,200 things that we've digitized so far. We have a relatively modest digitization program just because of mostly because of resources. But that is one thing that we've tried to provide more access to, especially, and we focused on the archives collection mostly because archives material tends to be unique. And so if we digitize the material that's unique, that means that we're providing access to something that is something you can't access otherwise. So from the library and archive side, that we have a library catalog that we've had for the last 25 years. We have I should say we have a new library catalog. The data is the same, hopefully somewhat improved, but there's access to the library catalog in terms of what we have in our collection, and we'll have a similar thing for the archives starting this spring.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I can also speak a little bit to the museum collection. We have an online collections database. It's available through our website. It is it's called Mobius, but that doesn't really matter. You just get there and you can type in a question. You can look for Masonic apron or George Washington or something more more specific, like an object related to your lodge. You can see what we have. That is about comprises about 20% of our collection, and we add to it every week. Whenever we have new imagery and information, we link it up to Mobius, and so it's I don't know, it's like building something with very tiny steps. And we were very excited just this last week or the week before. We have a wonderful volunteer from the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. His name was Paul. He comes in every week and he's been photographing objects from their collection. And he's managed to photograph 567 aprons from the Grand Lodge collection. And I'd say 70% of them are fantastic. And they are all on Mobius now. So he's been working on that for how long, Stacy?
I think he started about a year ago. So it took
About a
about
year
a
ago.
year to get through the whole collection.
Yeah, so eventually he'll get through that whole collection, but in a year he's been able to help us get those images online. My point being, we're always working on it, so check those resources out, and if you have specific questions, please send them along and we'll be happy to try to answer them.
Terrific. Time, patience, and perseverance can accomplish all things, huh?
Yeah.
So that's a continual process, Mike, and with a team that's always multitasking with several different work efforts, they try to fit in a little bit of this to continue to build this data in a way that people can access it in a better fashion. So, we don't have any one or two people that are committed, just strictly to that. We use the resources that we have when we have the time, energy, and finances to be able to continue. But that is a continual process, and we're always adding to both of those things.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I love the fact that a lot of things are getting digitized these days. However, not only is the 50th anniversary of our museum and library, but the Lexington's 250th kicking off the American Revolution will be happening at the same time. And I'm sure there will be a lot of folks traveling to that area during the next year to be part of the celebrations that are going on. And should they want to visit the museum and library in person, can you tell us what your hours are that when you're open to the public, and can they come in and peruse the library or take a tour?
So we are open from 9 to 4 Monday through Friday, except for holidays. And we are also open since coming back from COVID. We're open one Saturday a month. That's generally the last Saturday of the month. But if there's a holiday involved around the end of the month, we usually push it up 1 week. So those Saturday dates can be found on the website. But generally speaking, we're open Monday to Friday from 9 to 4.
Okay, great. And a question for Jeff. You mentioned 3 great lectures that are coming up later this year. And I think you mentioned to me, but maybe not before we started, will these be available, will they be streamed, or some of them, all of them? If we're not able to be there in person, will we be able to watch them online?
That is a great question. I'm not sure I have the answer. Maybe one of my colleagues. I can say for sure that the one that's only online will be online. The first two that I mentioned, I'm not sure. I don't know if one of my colleagues can speak to that.
I think we're still kind of working out the details with the partner events, since these are in the fall. You know, there's still a few details we're working out, but I think, you know, we're hoping to at least record them, if not maybe do a live stream type thing. So we're
Okay.
hoping to have them available for people in some way.
Yeah.
That'd
I
be
think
great.
they'll be available. Again, the streaming might not happen, but the Paul Revere House does a lot of streaming, and we have a lot of great resources in-house. So they'll definitely, the material will be available to anyone who's interested to watch afterwards for sure.
Excellent. Great.
I'll mention one more program that we're entertaining bringing in. That's going to be around the Giving Tuesday period. The Grand Lodge of Massachusetts has a project called the Knox Cannon Project, and they have engaged a foundry to design and cast a cannon, which is going to make a journey from, I believe, Fort Ticonderoga across the state of Massachusetts and eventually end up in Dorchester. They're hoping to put a statue in Dorchester Square. I understand that they have permission to do so. And we hope to be a part of that program sometime either Giving Tuesday or a week before Giving Tuesday. We're working with the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts on that. And they are also talking about bringing, as part of that journey, some degrees through the Grand Lodge at several of those stops. So you can look for further information on that as it comes forward from the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, and we'll have it on our website if and when we do engage in that project with them. It looks like we will, but we don't have the details yet.
Okay,
And we
great.
will be, speaking of Saturdays that we are open on several Saturdays in April this year because of the special time, it being the 250th anniversary of the beginning of the American Revolution right there in Lexington, and our 50th anniversary. And there's so much going on in and around the community that we felt that we should be a part of it. So we are going to be open the Saturday before Patriots Day and Patriots Day as well. Generally, we're not opened on Patriots Day because there's so much going on in the community, and we usually let them use our parking lot for all of the activities going on. But we will be open a couple of Saturdays and Patriots Day this year.
Excellent. Does anybody have any other questions?
Rick, if I just may pop in for a moment.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to bring everybody greetings from the Supreme Council of Canada. It was a fascinating evening, rather. There's a lot of information there. Just an interesting note. I was with one of our Scottish Rite members in Sudbury, Ontario, last weekend, and he just arrived back from Lexington. So he was at your museum and he took the tour, and he was very appreciative of the hospitality he received when he was there. So to get on the website, there's no password or anything. We can get on the website fine from up here. Okay. The second thing is this is taped, right, Rick? So
I have recording this, yes.
I think our librarian in Hamilton would Evan Woodhead would really appreciate seeing this. And I don't know, Rich, he might even have some books for you. We've got a good library, much smaller, mind you, but in Hamilton with a bunch of books. So it might be an idea for you and Evan to keep in touch with. That might be something you'd consider. And just on a closing note, it's great to see Mike Morris. We spent some time together in Germany, and it's in Berlin, Mike. So thank you very much. It's great seeing everybody, and we look forward to seeing you down the road soon. And Rick, say hello to your fine lady, and we'll be in touch, I'm sure.
Yeah, you do the same, Dave. Actually, I'll be up in Hamilton in May.
I believe I'm at the World Conference.
Oh,
that
so I'll
time.
miss you, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going up and catching all the degrees
Oh, super,
for
super.
that weekend. So please give my best to Aurora.
Will do.
And thank you for coming. It's not very often we get the Sovereign Grand Commander from the Supreme Council of Canada with us. And we've also got Mike Morris, who's our deputy here in New York, and R.J. Kessler, who's a past Grand Master, an all-around good guy. And it's really great to have everybody else here. If there are no other questions, I would like to once again thanks Rich Elliott, Stacy Frazier, Hillary Anderson Stelling, and Jeff Croto for their presentation tonight on the 50th anniversary of the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful hosting you. Looking forward to seeing you in person up there in April, or over there in April. And hopefully the winter will be gone by then.
We'll make sure that it is.
Yeah, thanks. So with that, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your evening and look forward to seeing you all in the near future. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good evening.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks for spending time with XLCR 32. The experiences, comments, opinions, and views shared on this program are those of individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, Concordant, or Pendant body. Until we meet again, keep on reaching higher.